start the recording. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Tom Nelson, Chair for the LCAP Committee, and also with us is my co-chair, Heather Gonzalez, as well as our LCAP Director, John, and our LCAP Specialist, Laura. Want to welcome everybody, and it promises to be a good meeting. We'll be able to give some input, and I think with that I will turn it over to John to take it from there.
Great, Tom, thank you so much. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. As Tom mentioned, my name is John Tornatore, and I'm the Director of Continuous Improvement and LCAP here in San Juan. We're going to show our agenda here on the next slide. So Laura, you want to go to the next slide? There we go. So in addition to our reoccurring operational items that we'll be engaging in this evening, our agenda is going to include some opportunities for us to connect with one another as a community, as well as learn with and from one another as well. So as you can see here, we're going to be engaging in a community building activity. We'll be sharing what inspired us to join the LCAP PAC, and then building on the work that was started last year by reviewing and revising considerations for the 21 to 24 LCAP. If we go to the next slide here, I just wanted to highlight that the purpose of the LCAP PAC is really unique and special in this sense, is that as an advisory committee, we get to review and consider all the themes that were provided by the various stakeholders across our district, and then provide additional considerations based on what you observe across stakeholder group input. So to start us off this evening and to ground our work together as a team, I'd like for us to review our LCAP PAC norms and values. And what I'd like you to do here, we'll just take about a minute or so, is to pick one norm or one value that really resonates with you and that you personally would like to focus on this evening. So again, the first ask here is to just review our LCAP PAC norms and values and pick one that resonates with you that you personally would like to focus on this evening, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll just give about a minute of silence here for folks to read and review and to think about that. All right, so thank you, everyone. So with that now, I'm just going to turn it over to our co-chair, Heather, who's going to help us facilitate one of our first community building activity this evening here. So Heather, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, John. Yeah, and first, before we dive into the community building, I just want to pay a little homage actually to Amber Busby, one of our fellow PAC members, who actually, I'm getting a call. There's chaos in my I will digress. But anyways, Amber actually made me aware of the Roses and Thorns activity. And so I want to, acknowledge that. But essentially, the Roses and Thorns, as I understand it, is a way for us to collectively communicate, the beautiful things, the positives, but then also those things that may prick a little and may, pain us, and kind of presents an opportunity to share and balance and share out in community, because the good things, the bad things, all of those things make up the beauty that is life, or a rose, right? And so through that, we're going to be doing breakout groups, and we just want to share a little bit and start our day with building relationship, leaning into the humanity of our experience, and to share out our roses and thorns. And so Laura is going to be sending us off, and we're going to have a little bit of time to share. After our breakouts, we'll come back, and if you desire, you're able to share out, whatever moves you to share with the group. So that is it. And just let us
see,
know.
Laura, okay.
Yeah,
was it-
yeah. Let us know whenever you're ready.
Uh,
Right. Well, that was good. Oh my goodness. That was the best thing that I experienced all week. I feel like I have so much energy now. Welcome back, everyone. Tell us if you would like to share. How was that activity for you? Do you have any roses or thorns that you would want to share out to the group?
Okay, I go first again, just to get it out the way. Okay, so I told Heather and everybody else in my breakout group that remember how I shared last time with the foster care and how to engage and the things as I was going through. Well, after our meeting, the kids came back home.
Yay.
so
Nice.
so that's a big rose that I'm actually on extended visitation until we figure out what's going on with Dad with mental health. We reached out, Dr. Bradford. He has a studio called Jesus TV, and he wants the kids to have it, and I'll be executive producer of it. And he wants to start a mental health, kind of like, not mental health, but more like a youth leadership, and to advocate and to like promote their ideas. And he wants to teach them engineering and TV production and just like career thing. So there's a studio available for the kids right here by Sunrise Mall. Yeah, we want to particularly like kids that's really like want to be motivated, that's really honest, because I don't want none of this stuff to get stolen. So there is something that's open for them that me and the kids been working on in this last 2 weeks. And so and try to promote like what's their schooling and everything that's going on, and my children's willing to advocate. So that's one of the things. And plus I cried thinking my daughter's kind of like a kindergartner. No, she started freshman year. I'm freshman. So that was our roses and thorns this week.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Stephanie and Miss Nora. And I want to give special mention in addition to that, that our students shared a little bit about going back to school. And so I don't know if anyone wants to share about that.
Yeah. We've got Kenan or Beth or Jackson. There's Jackson.
Yeah.
Nora. Hey, Jackson.
So I shared a little bit in my group about going back to school. I am doing the hybrid model. So I think it's a really good thing. The way we've been going back, I think it's been really positive for most of the people I know who've been going back to school. I think the teachers are really embracing the changes and working to engage the students while they're in person, and adapting to the new model, which I think is great. And I think the school's doing a really good job with COVID protocols, which I also think is great. I think the thorn about that would probably be the fact that we don't get much class time. There's not much we can do about that, obviously, but it's a little bit difficult because we're going from having like 4 hour-and-a-half classes like every week. Now it's like 2 45-minute classes. So the learning time is significantly cut down, which makes it a little bit harder. And then a lot of classes are very small. Like a couple classes that I'm in have like 4 students total with the in-person, which is a little difficult for some of the teachers from what they've expressed. And it's a little bit harder, but there's also advantages to that. But yeah, that's some of the roses and thorns of going back to school as a student.
That's great, Jackson. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else have any roses or thorns that they wanted to share? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing and just building community. Oh, it looks like Beth is making a comment in the chat, and she's saying that she's having trouble with her mic, but would like to add that she's noticed that she's much more focused and grounded in person. And many of her peers have had the same experience. And so Beth would concur that the difficulties of learning time being cut since students have to take much more responsibility in teaching themselves, but overall it's been great. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Beth. And I don't know, I will just say the rose of my day was hearing from our students and also from our parents about, you know, the positive changes that are happening, even though it's not perfect, but just, you know, getting back together, connecting, getting back on campus, and the light at the end of this, you know, metaphorical tunnel that we've been in for a while. So, if no one else has anything that they'd like to share off, I'll go ahead and hand it back off to John.
Great. And thank you, Heather. Let's see here. All right, so what we're going to do now is we will transition to our board liaison update and our superintendent update. So we'll start, President Villescaz, would you like to give an update?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Sorry to join late, and I'm actually would be thrilled to share this report out with Dr. McKibben as well, who is here, and I want to thank him for joining. I'm actually out in the field right now for work on assignment, so I'm not sure I'll be able to stay for the whole meeting, and so Dr. McKibben has graciously agreed as kind of the secondary board liaison to show up. So much appreciation to him. I mean, the general update, there's already been some report outs about the big news, of course, with students being back. You know, we had the 1 week and then we had spring break, and now's our next week back. And a lot of focus and preparations on, you know, continuing to examine as folks come back what the rest of the school year looks like. I think the theme of the year continues to be ever-changing guidance. The ground is always shifting underneath us, so we're always trying to keep up with it. And so definitely appreciate the parent voice here, but also just a lot of the feedback we've heard over the last 2 weeks about the instructional model. But always appreciate hearing, I mean, for the most part, you know, some of our kids are back in class, and just hearing the reflections about, you know, being back, and there's definitely a lot of anxiety, but for the most part, folks just thankful to be able to be back in person, engaging with their peers and with their staff, and then of course maintaining our distance learning option as well. So lots going on. Things continue to shift a little bit for us, so we keep trying to keep up with that. But want to just say thanks for those who've shared out. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike to see if he's got anything to add.
Yeah, thank you, President Villescaz. One of the things that I've been doing over the last few weeks is that I've been going to a number of committees, as it turned out that trying to cover for people, and that includes curriculum instruction, that includes the special education community advisory committee, and indeed this one. But the thing that I've been most impressed with is just how hard everybody's working, including the parents and on our committees and so forth. So I want to thank this committee, the LCAP committee, as well as the others, because of how they're working. And as Paula said, we've been throwing a whole lot of curveballs over this last year, and the resilience and the perseverance that you've shown is just absolutely amazing. And I just want to say thank you for all of that.
All right. Thank you, Dr. McKibben. Thank you, President Villescaz. I would also like to turn it over to Deputy Superintendent Bassanelli. Ms. Bassanelli, are you going to provide an update this evening?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you. Superintendent Kern sends his regrets that he had a conflict and he's not able to be here tonight. But I did want to just provide a brief update. So some of our members might have listened in at the March 23rd board meeting, where we provided an update related to the change in guidance for CDPH, where there was the reduction of physical space that's necessary between student desks, the movement from 6 feet to 3 feet. So this obviously has a potential impact in terms of the instructional model that we are implementing right now, our hybrid model. And so we're continuing to bargain the effects of the potential change, the reduction in space between students, because this does mean that we could potentially fit more students in classrooms, thus increasing the days students would be attending school. And so we continue to bargain that. We're also exploring and identifying potential issues related to furniture or facilities, because upholding the guidance, the new guidance with 3 feet and trying to accommodate more students in the classroom, there are some classrooms that are smaller. And so we do have to look to see what furniture can be utilized in that classroom in order to implement more days of instruction. And so just as Jackson talked about, some of his classes have a few amount of students in them right now. We also shared with the Board of Education prior to break that the enrollment in cohort C, it tends to vary. So at the elementary level, we're looking at 75% of our students are in person right now, and with 25 still being in distance learning. And then it goes up from there. So at middle school, we have 35 or 33% that stayed in distance learning. And at the high school level, it's 39. It's nearly 40% are continuing in distance learning. And that does impact the dynamics in the classroom when you talk about higher level courses that tend to be smaller in size in terms of the students in the classroom. And with 60% attending and 40% staying in distance learning, that does impact the dynamics in there. So we continue to look at that data. We are, again, bargaining the effects of the change in guidance, and we are anticipating providing a board update at next meeting on April 13th. So thank you, John.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to transition to our staff report, and I have the pleasure of providing that for you this evening. And what I'd like to share with you all this evening is a little bit of information about our LCAP roadmap, essentially where we've been, where we are now, and where we are going. So Laura, if you want to go to the next slide. Perfect. So this is a graphic representation of our goals, our LCAP goals, but then also a timeline of where we've started since January and where we're heading to by the month of June, I should say. So where we left off last year is the LCAP PAC provided some considerations to inform the actions for the 21-24 LCAP. And that was in March. And then COVID hit and our focus shifted to supporting our students and families with distance learning. And then more recently, transitioning back to in-person learning. Since January, we've been engaging stakeholders across our district, including students, staff, and families, because we believe that in order to create that meaningful district-wide plan for improvement, that we really need to hear the voices and understand the experiences of our diverse community, especially after this last year of working through COVID. And so what we did is we asked questions that focused on 3 areas: student learning, feeling connected, and then summer programs. And these questions were designed and aligned to our focus areas, our 4 focus areas, as well as the learning continuity plan themes. And so that brings us to where we are now and where we are going to be going here. This evening, you're going to have the really important role of reviewing the themes that emerged across the groups, the stakeholder groups, and use that information to build upon and or revise the considerations that you all made last year as a PAC. And then we are going to use that information to help inform our 21-24 LCAP actions, which we will share with you at our next meeting in May through our draft LCAP. And then from there, as you can see there in June, we're going to receive final considerations, and then we'll go to the board for approval in June. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime over here, Tom, who will facilitate our general visitor comments.
Tom, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go. Yes, thank you. Thank you and welcome any visitors that want to give comments. So Laura, I'll let you go ahead and give the the guidance or directions for visitor comments. Let's see. Let's see, Laura, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
So if you're a visitor, I always forget to unmute. Seems like it's going around tonight. If you're a visitor and would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I'll call on you. If you can limit your comments or questions to 2 minutes, that would be great. Because we're part of a Green Act law. The law allows the public to address the committee for items on the agenda and items that are not on the agenda. But we are not allowed to comment on any non-agenda items. Any issues raised by visitors, we may place it on a future meeting agenda. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. So actually, I can keep sharing. If you're a visitor and you have a comment, please raise your hand. I'll scroll through all the visitors and look
So
for
Laura,
some hand raised.
Kimber would like to speak.
Yeah, we do
Yes.
have Kimber.
Kimber, you have the floor. Go ahead.
All right. Good evening. My name is Kimber Rice. I am a Parent Family Support Ambassador with the Family and Community Engagement Department. I have a son in 4th grade at Cameron Ranch and a daughter in 8th at Will Rogers going to Mesa High School next year. I'm also a member of the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education. As I reflect on this year, I think about the struggles to have conversations around race and equity. I think about the engagement of student and family voice that I'm humbled to support in my role. I have heard from many families in listening sessions and committee meetings over the last few years. I do not speak for all families. I can only speak from my own experience, but my experiences have shown me how much students with disabilities continue to be marginalized in our system, especially students with cognitive and significant support needs. Distance learning from my family laid bare how inaccessible and uninclusive the educational system is for students like my daughter, who has intellectual and developmental disabilities. Special education is not a place, it is a service, but more often than not, our daughter has to go somewhere else to receive this service. Systemically, it is a separate but equal service that does not provide an education equal to that of non-disabled peers. Our daughter has some incredible teachers who go above and beyond to be welcoming, who have no idea how to provide modifications and accommodations. She has other teachers who provide modified materials, but have very low expectations, providing only functional content for life skills, rather than adapted age-appropriate academic instruction. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2006 states that the implementation of the law has been impeded by low expectations and insufficient focus on applying replicable research on proven methods of teaching and learning for students with disabilities, and that over 50 years of research and experience has demonstrated that the education of children with disabilities could be made more effective by having high expectations and ensuring access to the gen ed curriculum in the regular classroom to the maximum extent possible. Special education is not a place, it is a service. And yet we rely on special education to create inclusion programs and classrooms in our district, rather than adopt a district-wide initiatives to provide inclusive instructional practices for all students. ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015, aligned with IDEA in regards to least restrictive environment. It calls out, along with every one of the California instructional frameworks, the need to utilize Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, in order to provide an equitable education to students with disabilities, English learners, and to further support the needs of all students as best practice.
Kimber,
Yep.
Kimber, I'm sorry, that's time. Do you have just a couple more seconds or are you just about done?
Yes, I'm almost done. If I could have another few seconds.
You bet. Go ahead.
Thank you. We may employ mental health professionals, equity liaisons, and family engagement specialists like myself to support to support student achievement in many necessary ways, but until classroom instructional practices are equitable, we are missing the mark for educational success. I ask this committee to explore district-wide training, coaching, and support for Universal Design for Learning as an evidence-based proven method for inclusive practices for all students. As a byproduct, students with disabilities would have naturally occurring opportunities to be involved in general education, and special education would act as a better service to provide those opportunities rather than a place to go because those opportunities don't currently exist. Inclusion is not an add-on service or program that can be provided by special ed department through an IEP. Inclusion is an intentional, meaningful act of being included by the system that every student deserves. thank you very much for your time and the work you do for your students. You're very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kimber. Do we
yeah,
have any other people that would
oh,
like
I just wanted to say, thank you very much, Kimber, for those very insightful and articulate comments. I know that I've frequently gone to you because I know you are an expert in the special ed arena. And I believe it looks like those comments may have been written. If you could send them to me, I would like to share them in writing with the members of the committee. So thank you very much for that. I guess another note, I did see that there is potentially some legislation that if it passes, there may be an indicator on the California dashboard related to special education, which I found kind of interesting since so I guess strictly speaking, special education is not one of the low income or doesn't fall into the same category currently as the other high needs or students under LCAP. So anyway, thank you for that.
Thank you, Kimber. Do we have any other visitor comments at this point in time? I'm scrolling through. I don't see any hands raised. Let me just come back around. Okay, I think that concludes our visitor comments.
Okay, so now we'll turn it over to you, Laura, for our attendance roll call.
Okay, this is going to be a voice roll call, everybody. So as I call your name, just say yes if you're here. Amber?
Here,
Amber?
sorry, my screen went black and I was frantically trying to fix it. I'm here.
Don't worry, I know the feeling. Thank you, Amber. Kenan?
I am here.
Thank you. Caroline?
Here.
Thank you. Elnora?
I'm here.
Hi, Elnora. Welcome. It's great to have you back. Stephanie?
You.
Jackson?
Here.
Same to you. Great to have you back too, Jackson. Heather?
Here.
Kim?
Here.
Beth?
She was having problems with her microphone, so.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, you're true. Here, she put in the chat box. Thank you, Beth. Chelsea?
Here.
Thank you. Zena?
Here.
Tom, of course.
Here.
Phyllis?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Beatrice?
Here.
Thank you. And Jacqueline? Okay. Thank you. With that, we have quorum. I think let me double check. We should have 15. 3, 4, 12, 13, 14. Yes, we have 15 people. Okay, with that, we will go ahead to the minutes. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully people have had a chance to look at the minutes that were sent out via email. So I will go ahead and entertain a motion from somebody to approve the minutes. Anybody care to make a motion on that?
I read them over earlier this week and I motioned it. This is Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie moves to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Chelsea seconds.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any discussion, corrections that anybody has noticed in the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I will go ahead and call for a vote to approve the minutes. See,
Tom, are we approving both February 11th and March 11th?
Correct.
See, yeah, see, can we do them? Yeah, if we can do them both at once, I think that would save time.
But it's difficult because I did not attend the March 11th, but I attended the February 11th.
Okay. All right. So then I guess we better do them one at a time. So I will take it that that motion we'll start with the February 11th minutes.
Okay.
So I'll call for a vote on that. And what's the easiest way for you to record the vote, Laura?
How about if I just go down the list again?
Okay.
So Amber, do you approve the February minutes? This is for February.
Yes.
Okay, Kenan, February minutes?
I approve, yes.
Caroline,
Approved.
Elnora,
En verdad que sí.
Stephanie,
I approve.
Jackson,
I approve.
Heather,
I approve.
Kim,
I approve.
Beth, want to put it in the chat box? Okay. Chelsea, okay, Chelsea made a motion. Zena, do you approve February?
Approve.
Okay,
Yes, I approve.
thank you. Tom,
Approve.
Phyllis,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes, approve.
and Beatrice.
Abstain.
Okay. So that's everybody, Laura, right?
That's everybody.
Okay, so the February 11th minutes are approved. I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve the March 11th minutes.
I move to approve the March minute.
Okay, that's
Chelsea,
okay. Chelsea, and is there a second?
Kenan seconds the March minutes.
Thank you. Okay, so on the March minutes, are there any corrections or discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to call for the vote. So
Okay.
Laura, go ahead.
Amber, I noticed you said you abstained. Were you abstaining from February's minute?
No, that was for March. I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kenan, you motion to approve. Caroline, do you approve March minutes?
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. Elnora,
I wasn't there.
okay. Stephanie,
I approve. Motion.
okay. Jackson,
Approve.
Heather,
Approve.
Kim,
I was not in attendance.
Kim, I'm sorry, I missed that.
I think she's abstaining because she wasn't.
Okay,
She decided.
thank you. Beth, approve. Okay, abstain, thank you. Chelsea, looks like you motion.
Approve.
Thank you. Zena,
I wasn't there.
okay. Tom,
Approve.
Phyllis,
Abstain?
Steve,
Approve.
and Beatrice.
Abstain.
Okay, all right.
All right. Well, the March minutes have been approved. So we'll move on to the next agenda item of committee business. I want to announce that the board approved the revisions to the bylaws. I'm quite pleased with that. And also as part of that revision to the bylaws, there is now a student chair position that exists. That student chair position would become part of the LCAP leadership, working with the chair and assistant chair, as well as with the LCAP director and LCAP specialist, as we typically meet once, sometimes twice a month in putting together the agenda for the next meeting. So normally on the bylaws, elections, and by the way, elections are scheduled in the bylaws at the last meeting of the academic school year. So as a, to let everybody know, at our June meeting is when the committee will vote for the next chair and assistant chair. Since that will be the second year that I will be serving as chair, I will no longer be eligible to continue for chair. Also, I want to mention at our June meeting that at that meeting, Damaris Canton will have served for 3 two-year terms. And in our bylaws, you can serve for a maximum of 3 two-year terms. So that will also be Damaris's last meeting as being part of a committee, being part of the committee. I will have served for 5 years, so I'm in the third term of, or third two-year term, so I will be on the committee for 1 more year after this, and before I have reached my term limit. But I mentioned that for people to keep in mind of electing a new chair and assistant chair at June. So keep that in mind. But more immediately, since we do have I guess, a vacant student chair position, I think that it's elected by students, and since we have all 4 students here, if there is a student that would like to nominate either themselves or another student, I believe that we can fill that position, even though it would only be for the next couple of meetings. But so I'll turn it, open up the floor to any students that would either like to nominate another student or self-nominate. Are there any?
I would be interested in self-nominating for the student chair.
Okay, thank you, Kenan. Are there any other students that would care to nominate? I guess.
I second it.
Okay, was that Beth, or who was that? Oh, was that Nora?
Wants to nominate Kenny.
Okay.
Tom, I have a quick question. Since it's
Yes.
not agendized, we're not able to vote on this tonight, correct? So we're getting a name.
Well,
We'll vote on it.
I believe that this is committee business. So I think underneath the general heading of committee business, it qualifies.
Okay.
So I've heard Kenan nominate himself. I don't hear any other nominations. I guess Laura, I'd like to, I guess, call for a vote of approving Kenan as the student leadership chair.
Okay. All right, so I guess we go down the list, right?
Yeah, just the students.
Just the
Because of the
students.
bylaws say the student chair is elected by the students, so.
Thank you. So Kenan, do you vote for yourself?
I do, yes.
Okay. Now Nora, do you vote for Kenan to be a student chair of the LCAP PAC?
Yes, I do.
Jackson,
I do.
thank you. And Beth, you can just put it in the chat box. Is that your reply, Beth? Yes?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And congratulations, Kenan, for being the LCAP PAC's very first student chair.
Yes, congratulations. Great job.
Kenan.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice job. I don't know how he's going to do it. He's so busy in all these other committees doing such a great job, but congratulations, Kenan. We're excited.
Okay. Yes. So unless there's any other discussion on this agenda item, I think we'll move on to agenda item 10, the LCAP inspiration for your involvement.
Great. Thank you, Tom. And again, congratulations, Kenan. We're happy to have you join. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little time to learn and share with one another really what inspired you to join the LCAP PAC so that we can really begin to take meaningful action together as a team. So this is what we're going to do now is we're going to put you in some small breakout rooms. and allow about, everyone to a few minutes each to share what inspired them to join the LCAP PAC. So Laura, we're going to have you put everyone in the rooms, and then Laura will also put the question in the comment section as well, just so you have that there in your small groups. And then we'll return in a few minutes, in about 8 minutes or so, and then we'll use that as our springboard into our next activity, which will be the LCAP PAC considerations and recommendations section of the agenda. So Laura, whenever you're ready, we can move into breakout. Perfect. Well, welcome back, everybody. So we just hope you had a good conversation to start us off here, because we're going to use this as our springboard into the next agenda item that we have tonight, which is really moving in, which will take up about an hour of our time this evening, which will be focused on our considerations and recommendations. So what we're going to do here, before we get started, I want to connect this next section to one of our norms and values, which is this idea of we, not me, which is one of the norms that we looked at before we started this evening. And the reason I wanted to lift that norm to the front of this here is because our goal for this section here is to really lift our collective voice as a community by identifying overarching themes across stakeholder groups. So as we're doing this work this evening, again, really thinking about the we of the work that we do, looking for those overarching themes across stakeholder groups. And so in order to do that, we're going to engage in a few sections. First, we're going to do a little reviewing and reactivating our thinking. We'll then move into reflecting on what some of the stakeholder engagement themes that we've collected. And then the bulk of our time will be into refining and revising our considerations. So to start us off here, as I said, we're going to take about 15 minutes to review and reactivate our thinking around the considerations that the PAC made last year in March, and give you some time to kind of look at them again, reacquaint yourselves with them, engage in discussion with one another to kind of figure out what they mean, if there's any discussion or questions about that. So Laura has shared the considerations that were made last year in March in the chat. So you can go ahead and open those up. And then what we'll do is she's going to place you into a group right now for about 15 minutes, and then we'll return and engage in the next part of our meeting here. So Laura, when you're ready, we can put folks in there. And then I just want to remind ourselves too, we have facilitators with us as well, who can help answer any questions in your small groups as well, should you have any. All right, everybody, welcome back. So you've had a little chance to look at the input that was provided, or the considerations that were offered last year in March. And so now what we'd like to do is we're going to shift now and look at the stakeholder engagement themes that emerged that since we've been collecting input since January. So on the screen here is the document you're going to be engaging with next. So before sending you off into your breakout rooms, just to kind of walk you through what you're going to have in front of you. So in the very top, you'll see the question 1, question 2, and question 3. And those questions should look familiar because of the questions that we presented to you all at the LCAP PAC to get stakeholder input, but it's also the questions that we asked the different stakeholder groups, including students and other family groups and staff as well. On the far left column, you will see all the stakeholder groups that were engaged. So you can work your way down there, and then you'll also see the date that they occurred. And then underneath each of the questions, on the bullet points, those are the themes that emerged with those questions for that group. So what we'd like you to do now is to just take some time and read through this and looking for themes that are emerging across all the stakeholder groups. So you might look at like the first one, which is the San Juan Youth Voice Advocates. You're reading through some of those themes. You'll look at some of the other groups that were that we engaged and see what are some of those key ideas that are coming across all the stakeholder groups. And you guys can talk with one another now on that in your small groups as well. And then when we'll come back, we'll kind of put both of these documents together. So Laura, again, is going to put you back in the same groups that you were in, and then we'll pop into if anyone has any clarifying questions. And Laura is also going to email this document, if she hasn't already, to all of you, so you have access to it either if you're on your phone or your Chromebook. So you'll have it in the chat, but you'll also have it in your email right now as well.
Okay. Oh, John, I just wanted to mention something on these 3 questions. These 3 questions were developed in consideration of the 4, our strategic framework and our 4 focus areas. So for example, in particular, you'll notice, say question number 2, it talks about connected, which, so if you're in like the focus area 1, the question number 2 in particular might be a column that you may want to focus in particular on. Column number 2, question number 2, since that aligns very much with focus area 1. It also aligns with focus area number 2. And for example, question number 1 talks about programs. So that aligns a lot with the focus area number 3 of academic programs. And so does actually question number 3. Focus area number 4 for pathways, I think in particular, it tends to align with question number 3 also. So I just wanted to mention how these questions do align in some of them in more particularly to a focus area than others.
It's Tom, thank you so much for that reminder. And I'll just add as well. So these questions, not only do they align to the 4 focus areas, but they are also aligned to the learning continuity plan themes that emerged as well over this last year. So you'll definitely see some overlap. So thank you for drawing that connection.
Yes.
And so Laura, whenever you're ready, I think we're ready to go into the groups and have some more discussions on this.
Yes, thank you. And as John mentioned, I did email the key considerations, and the facilitators have that document as well. So with that, I will go ahead and open all the rooms.
Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. All right, so there's one last section that we're going to do here. So now you've had an opportunity to review the considerations that were made last year in March, before COVID. You've also now had an opportunity to review the stakeholder input that we've been collecting since January from all the different stakeholders, focused on these 3 questions that are connected to our 4 focus areas, as well as the learning continuity themes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to move into the refinement and the considerations. So essentially, based on what you learned from the stakeholder themes, what considerations might you add, revise, or remove? And so if you look on the screen here, this is the document now that you're going to be engaging with. So each of the facilitators has this in front of them. On the far left column, those are where the original considerations in March are in their form. They won't be touched. And in the right column, this is where you'll have an opportunity based off of what you've learned from the stakeholder engagement themes to offer some additional considerations that we can then incorporate into what will become the final pack considerations for the, I want to say learning continuity plan, but it's not that, the LCAP. So with that in mind, then Laura, we'll go back into groups, and this will be a longer chunk of time here because we want to make sure we give you as much time as possible to make those revisions and as needed. So Laura, when you are ready, we will do that. All right, everybody, well, welcome back. I was able to pop into a few of the groups, and so I just want to thank you all for your thoughtfulness on this and sharing all of your thinking and your ideas with all of us. So as we wrap up this section here of our agenda, I just wanted to let you know what's coming up next. So this input and these ideas that you've shared, Tom and Heather will incorporate these into the PAC considerations, which will then be used to further inform our LCAP actions. So that'll be coming up next, which will then, the draft plan will be shared in May. And then also too, before, because I know some folks will be leaving here, I just want to give a sincere thank you to our facilitators for making some time to support us this evening. So thank you all for helping us out. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Kimber, John, Natalia, and who did I forget?
Nicole.
Nicole. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Great, thank you. All right, so with that now, we're going to turn it over to Tom here, who is going to, let's see here, what's the next agenda item? Agenda item 12, which is the future agenda item. So Tom, go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Go. Thank you. Okay, future agenda items. So this is an opportunity for our committee members, if there are items that they would like us to consider for the agenda of our next meeting, to go, to bring up any items that they think would be worthy of discussion at our next LCAP meeting.
Tom, I
this
wonder.
is
Oh, go
Pardon?
ahead. I'll jump in.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go on mute, Chelsea.
Okay, Heather. Okay, so this is Chelsea. A couple things I wanted to say. One is, as you may be aware, the state just doled out $12 billion to K-12 schools across the state, and that this is a time that school districts should be, using every innovative bone in their organization to find creative ways to re-engage kids. And we shouldn't be shy as a PAC in terms of encouraging the school district to think of innovative ways to re-engage kids this summer in particular, because quite frankly, it's going to be hard for districts to spend all the money that they're going to get. So with that being said, I would love to have a presentation from the district on the plans for this summer and for the summer re-engagement program, and any learning loss programs that are going to take place. I would love to have an update on those things.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I second that.
Okay. Good ideas, good comments. That's, yeah, that definitely is a place that we should be, item that we should be talking about and discussing at our future meetings. I think, something that I would like to kind of go over is we have, as the draft is put together, there's these actions and services, but those actions and services are, there's benchmarks or metrics of how do we know if that action or service was successful, was worthwhile continuing or not. So as a future agenda item, I'd like to go over the metrics that are being used for the actions and services to determine and determine whether we are being successful with the programs and services that are being put into the LCAP. And there is a saying that I recall hearing is what's inspected, in other words, what's looked at gets respected. So if there are things that we aren't measuring or we're not making progress in, it may be because we need a measurement to focus on that so that we can then determine how to make progress in areas where we think we're not making progress. So as a future agenda item, something that has to do with looking at the measurements in the LCAP to determine our success or failure on items.
Tom, this is Chelsea again. If I could piggyback off that comment and then off the public comment we had earlier tonight about special education, it would also be very helpful, I think, for our PAC if we had a short presentation from the district about special ed services and English learner services via distance learning and how that works and how that has worked or not worked. I think that could be helpful.
Yes, that's another good one. And there's probably quite a few things that could be future agenda items, but yeah, I would definitely put that one down. The pandemic has changed, so many things and impacted so many that there's probably lots of data in areas that we would be worthwhile to look at. And I guess I will rely upon our PAC members to suggest items that they would like to dig deeper in and get information on. I'm really kind of, myself, I'm kind of, yes, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead and finish. No, I'll
Yeah, I
say
was
after
going to
you're
say,
done.
I'm also very interested in if there's anything we can determine from the attendance and whether there are certain demographic groups that distance learning has been more successful with or more of a failure with, and then how we might compensate for that. And what have we learned from distance? What have we learned from distance learning? What are effective tools? Because I think distance learning will continue in some areas, and it probably should. In some ways, you can kind of say that we've had like advanced pathway academies in the past, which they have been a form of distance learning. So the idea that distance learning is another tool that we will continue to have, and how can we make distance learning even better when it is used as a tool. I see that Steve has his hand raised. So Steve,
Yes.
do you want to?
Thank you.
Go ahead and unmute.
You're on mute, Steve.
It is going around tonight, isn't it? I was just wondering, while we're asking for the district for communication, maybe about, you know, if, I don't know, about August, you know, what that's going to look like. It kind of goes with what we're talking about, but if there's anything new on August start for next year.
Okay.
Did we ever hear from Kim, Tom? I think that she was getting ready to say something at some point.
Yeah, thank you. Kim? Or...
Thanks. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I just had a quick question. I was curious to know, so I'm not sure what title it is, if it's like Title V or something for schools, to where they have funding for students to get tutoring service, but for schools outside of that particular title, they have no funding for tutoring for students. And I was wondering, is that something we could put on our future agenda item to address with the funding? If students who do not go to those particular type of schools, or, you know, under that title, if they can also qualify in some way or for tutoring, because there's a lot of children in special education who aren't at those schools but need those services but don't qualify for them.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
And then Tom, I was just going to add, you know, and I don't know if it would be at the next meeting, but some meeting soon, maybe we could talk about engaging with new LCAP potential members. Like, how do we recruit to get, you know, new folks engaged and applying for the next school year as well?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good topic. I think I mentioned at the beginning, we've had a couple of members that have resigned recently, and I think earlier this year, it wasn't just a few months ago that we appointed 5 new members. When I took a look, just a rough estimate, even though becoming an LCAP committee member is supposed to be a 2-year commitment, I did a rough calculation, and since the LCAP committee came into existence in around 2015, there have been about 90 LCAP members that have gone through being LCAP members, and by my rough calculation, the average term of a committee member has been actually less than a year. So there are some aspects there, and I believe that the turnover in LCAP has been significantly shorter than it has been in the other board advisory committees of facilities and curriculum and standards. the way that those committees are structured with their members and how the recruitment and retention is done is different than LCAP. So, and LCAP is, a very large lift. There's a lot there, and so if anything, it'd be great if LCAP had longer retention, because the value of experience of the experience of having LCAP members that have a longevity with the committee, I think would be very valuable. I see Stephanie has her hand raised. So Stephanie, you want to?
I'm sorry, Tom. Also, can I note that Amber has
Yes.
put something in the chat as well?
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Heather. I was just going to bring that up.
Yes.
And I'll just lift what I said in school site council meeting for Star King. I may have misunderstood, but it sounded like Greta was saying that so how every student now has a Chromebook, right? And then we also want Chromebooks available at schools as schools are opening back up. But what it was sounding like to me is that the schools that are, no, excuse me, the Chromebooks that are issued to students right now, if those don't come back to the school and more Chromebooks have to be purchased for all students at that school to have a Chromebook, it sounded to me like those funds would come out of the school's budget and take away from things like textbooks or other materials. And I was just wanting to know if we could talk about more clarity here as to if there's a way that that's not coming out of individual school budgets. And I don't have all the right words for like the different budget allocations, but yeah, that was something that we talked about, wanting to make sure that we're not taking away the smaller pool of money that schools have, and that this is instead a larger district issue in managing technology, if that makes sense.
Amber, if I could just jump in, this is Melissa. I don't think that needs to be an agenda item. I think that was a miscommunication. The district intends to have a replenishment plan for the Chromebooks that are not returned, and it would not be charged on the sites.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's see. Is Stephanie next then?
Okay, so as I focus on mental health again, it's my group. I wanted to see, like last time we were discussing last year when White House counseling ended and we were hiring more mental health counselors, we need to see, last time I think we had a printout of how many counselors were per capita per student. And so since the pandemic occurred and now we hired more counselors, what's the percentage of per counselor or interns with students now during the pandemic and as of online learning? So I need a more better perspective on visually. And so we know how many, like all the things, I've been hearing so many parents blogging in and saying their concerns and things going on with depression and suicide or kids not logging in and there's things going on at home. And so if we are hearing so many apparent comments through the board meetings and our meetings, what's being really tackled? I mean, how many counselors do we have per student? So I would love to see that on our agenda on focusing on that engagement with our families and students. So I wanted to put that up there.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we're getting lots of ideas for future agenda items. And let's see, Chelsea has her hand raised. So Chelsea, I'll give you the floor now.
Just to piggyback off Stephanie's comment, on our school site counselor, we have actually added a metric to our school site plan to look at the number of referrals to mental health services of our students. And so I think that could be a really helpful piece of information when we're not only looking at how many counselors we need, but how many referrals are we seeing? Obviously statewide we're seeing, and from my conversation with district folks, we are absolutely seeing an increase in referrals. So I think that information could also be helpful along with the number of counselors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll add, as long as we're collecting up ideas for future agenda items, something that I would like to also add on to a potential future agenda item, which was actually sparked by Carolyn's comment, and that is getting information on the budget. San Juan used to have a committee that was, facilities, transportation, and finance, and they used to look into the finance, but that piece of dealing with the finance got moved from that board advisory committee to LCAP. And so if the district budget in their finance is now, if our committee is the advisory committee to the school board on finance, then we should probably get a presentation by staff on district finance. And Carolyn, since do you have anything in addition you might want to comment on that?
I just really want to underscore the importance of looking at it by site, because we know we have a lot of disparities across our school sites. And so if we can start to look at that from the budget perspective, of course, the whole way the budget is funded by ADA to begin with kind of starts us off on at a disadvantage in some ways. But it'd be good to see kind of what's the base that we're building onto with the different fund sources. And if we're going to have a significant influx, how do we distribute that by school site in an equitable way that may not be everybody gets the same amount? There may be different needs at different schools for different reasons.
Yeah, good point. I do recall in years past, this committee did get a document of like where the LCFF funds went, broken down by school sites. So how much funds for EL went to each of the school sites, if I recall, there was a document. So that might be information that our committee should be getting to look at in the future.
I mean, I am on riveting page 140 of the 2021 budget book, but I still don't see the piece that would make it helpful for the things that we talk about here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think hopefully that gives us lots of things for future agenda items that we can get together and the LCAP leadership and kind of go over and hopefully determine what will be good agenda items. So I think at that I'll go ahead and close out future agenda items and see if there's any parting visitor comments.
Hey, see, I do not see any hand raised. So with that, we will go into glows and grows. That would be Heather.
All right, everyone. We wanted to end in community, just like we started and led with community. And so we wanted to just kind of reflect shortly on what worked well for you during tonight's LCAP PAC meeting, and then, what areas do we want to kind of focus on for next time to just keep strengthening our process and PAC? Does anyone have anything to share about what was a glow that you'd like to lift and highlight, and what was something that could be an opportunity for us to grow in?
I just want to shout out that it's Autism Awareness Month, so light it up blue. That's it. So I just wanted to put that out there. So don't forget about there's a lot out there to reach out with a lot of parents going through a child with special needs, and no matter if it's CHC or whatever, it's just in school, just help out in the community. Really need help. So shout out.
All right, thank you, Miss Stephanie. Anyone else have a glow or grow that you'd like to share before closing?
I would
Yes,
like,
we have, I'm sorry, Tom, we have Steve with his hand raised and then Chelsea. Go
okay.
ahead, Steve. And then Tom, you'll go after Chelsea.
Tonight went really smoothly. I enjoyed all the breakout sessions and had good conversations with everyone. And the format was excellent. And pretty much that's what I wanted to say. It was really smooth.
We'll
Thank
take
you.
it.
Thank you,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Chelsea, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, so I have two things I'd like to glow about. First of all, Jackson is in my group and he helped to turn around my entire attitude about our current situation with COVID. And we were talking about our focus area, and I just thought, this focus area is not relevant in COVID. This is not, we have to change course. And Jackson helped me to realize that being on Zoom actually is creating opportunities for students to do career exploration. And he had an awesome story that I want him to tell everybody about regarding Elon Musk. But so that's my first glow. Jackson changed my whole attitude tonight. And then my second glow is that I too really enjoyed the breakout groups. And I think a useful piece of information going forward is that it is helpful to have a staff report, but the staff report needs to be short, and then we need to have time to discuss it. And I think the breakout groups is a great way to do that.
Awesome. Yay, Jackson. You have just been showing up all night and changing everyone's day. Wonderful. All right.
Thank you, Jackson. See, Tom, you're next. And
Yeah,
then if anyone else would like to talk after Tom, just raise your hand.
Okay, yeah, and I wanted to say in particular, having all four of the student members here, that was a real highlight because as Chelsea mentioned, that insight that you get hearing directly from the students that we are here to serve, that was definitely one of the, if not the biggest highlight tonight. And also another real highlight was working in the breakout sessions where we felt like we were able to express, our ideas and thoughts and considerations and build upon those recommendations and considerations from last year, add to them and move forward with some good ideas. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Chelsea, it looks like you have your hand raised.
Oh, nope, just forgot to lower it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I wondered about that. All good. Would anybody else like to make a comment? Okay. Heather, you want to wrap up this part and then turn it over to Tom to adjourn?
Yes, yes, yes. I think we're all ready to go. So I'm gonna throw it away and let's take it home.
You're on mute, Tom.
Okay, yep. So I will say thank you, everyone. And I will wish you all a good night. And I look forward to our next meeting. And as always, if there's any questions or comments, ideas that you think of between now and then, feel free to reach out to us. You're welcome to email me, and have a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye, everybody.